Okay, it looks like we are live, and I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, this joint meeting of the Facilities Committee as well as the Research and Collections Committee. And just to make sure, I'm going to share the current roster that I have for both committees to see whether or not we have quorums and whether or not that means we can pass or approve our minutes from the last time we met back in May. So looks like we have four of six from research and collections. So that sounds like a quorum. And we've got two of four from facilities. I'm not seeing David or Lauren. So I guess, Art, if you want to take the lead, you can at least pass the minutes on behalf of the Research and Collections Committee, and then we can move to our business.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting in May?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries.
Good. And we'll hold the Facilities Committee meeting next time and take a look at the minutes again. But I think everybody on facilities is going to be fine with those. So let's go ahead and take a look at our agenda, which I will share here. Yeah, I'm going to have to do it like this. Here we go. So what are our goals for today? Well, I think it's really just to catch up on where we left off last time, which was we knew that the Douglas Avenue facility was going to be evaluated for both lead and asbestos. Those have come back. We have some minor issues there, nothing to worry about. And then to look at the plan for the renovation, rehabilitation of Douglas Avenue. And
Tom,
I'm
go
sorry. Ahead. Go ahead, Art.
The documentation that we have in front of us, does that mark the 60% milestone that we discussed at the last meeting? Or are we at that point?
That's a good question for Jonathan. And I want to also ask Jonathan, in answering that question, maybe you could give us a description of the phasing. I think this is a project that's going forth in phases, and maybe you could help us understand that too.
Yeah, sure. So just walking through it, maintenance reserve project. You have the funding available in maintenance reserve to do the project, but every dollar we have is designated for this project specifically. So if a added expense comes up, that kind of slows things down. So we're working through schematic design now. Part of that phase has been sent to DEB. So they have the first phase of it. We're working on with the contractor a cost estimate. So we're working on a cost estimate to finalize schematics. But the hiccup or the wrench in the gears is the asbestos. So we're looking, the contractor sent us, sorry, the AE firm sent us 11 different companies that would be able to do it for us, right? So working through purchasing, we're working on getting the asbestos quoted and getting that knocked out before we move into the project phase. Now, that's not to say that once we find somebody to do the asbestos, that we can, flip a switch and they go in there. We want to time it so that research and collections could certainly move things around first. And then, so the phases is kind of coming into the fact of the remediation of that asbestos. Beyond that, the typical phases are, schematics go in, we cost estimate there, and then we get notes from DEB, we have a meeting with DEB, and then on to preliminaries. And then further down the road, we get to the working drawings and then the final bid out. So this project, we did submit for a waiver, not to have to go through DEB, but just do the basics. Now, so everything has to be sent to DEB, but the waiver was rejected. Took us about 60 days to get that information back. So we will have to follow the course. As you guys are familiar, probably with Waynesboro, the project. So we'll have to do all the steps to build a new museum as we would to do this renovation. So just picking up the time and just AE work to be done.
But
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, did I understand that there'll be a different phase for the basement versus the first floor, or did I misunderstand that?
Yes, sir. No, the first phase is the first floor, knocking that out. And then making sure really that we have enough money there, funding to do that to 100% standard.
But some of the asbestos is in the basement, or are we just talking about mitigating the asbestos on the first floor at this point?
So that's the part, the wrench in the gears. The whole building needs to be taken care of first before we start renovating the upstairs. The AE firm doesn't see any reason to, well, obviously, to go into everything until we get that asbestos out of there.
So the asbestos is in the ceiling tiles, plumbing insulation, and what else? The flooring?
I think it's just the floor tiles.
Yeah, I think it's just the floor tiles.
Yeah, but once you start moving around, it gets in the air, then it becomes aerosolized, and that's the trouble.
Right, right. And is the state covering that cost?
That'll be picked up in the maintenance reserve. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
good. So,
So we're not at 60% at this point, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So this is still very preliminary, which is a good time to be involved in looking at these drawings and making sure that they're following along with what we expect, right? So I guess we can move to those. I can share that document, but you should have also gotten it by email. And one challenge here is the size of these drawings relative to the size of the text earlier. So this is the document we're looking at now, which was issued in June and describes the current layout of just the first floor, the existing floor plan, the next page being the demolition plan, which kind of shows, if I'm reading it correctly, some dotted lines where they're going to be removing walls and things along those lines. So that's the way I read this.
and a few doors, yeah.
And doors and the entryway will change. Still entering from over here, but it looks like this wall, and this was a question I brought up with Jonathan at the facilities committee meeting we had recently. That wall is indicated as being removed, but then in the subsequent drawing, it shows that wall still being in place. Let's see if I can minimize this a little bit.
So I posed that question to the AE firm, and
Yeah.
that's something we'll be working on. The wall is going to go, but the drawings will resubmit during preliminary. We'll have that removed.
Okay, so there won't be this coat room vestibule. This will just be one entryway.
That's mostly glass now, and anyway, so yeah, it'll come out pretty quick.
Okay. Are there questions about this current drawing, either the demolition plan or the programmatic plan?
Yeah, just for completeness sake, that room down around 4 o'clock, if our rectangle was a circle, it has no door indicated on it. So we'll get them to fix that too.
This what is indicated as library?
Yeah, exactly. There's no door.
Okay.
Well, given the way that we've treated our library these past several years, does it need a door or a window or shelves or anything? Sorry, was that my out loud voice?
I'm also not clear what the color scheme represents. I didn't see a code on here. Maybe I missed it somewhere, but is there a meaning to the different colors?
I think I'd have to look it up. I think some are more specimen oriented with HVAC needs, whereas others are just storage for equipment type things. And that's just a cost savings. I think they looked at our current HVAC situation and said, what can we do with it to best utilize it to maintain the environment?
Okay, and so would taxidermy and specimens require different HVAC since they seem to be different color codes?
Yes, or maybe they're keeping the existing HVAC. I'd have to look, depending on what the notes were on it.
Okay. And then I think we did notice the catering kitchen. Not that it's intended to be for catering, but it would be a kitchen available to those that are maybe working in the space.
you're correct. Kind of like a wet bar situation, microwave, refrigerator.
That's at 6 o'clock using Joe's square clock. Any other questions or comments about this?
I just, Tom, did you get a chance to read through the demolition notes? The fine print? I just scanned through them and, I didn't see anything that jumped out at me, but then I don't necessarily know, what all this means anyway. The one thing I thought was interesting is they'd clean up every day and the stuff would be hauled somewhere based on the directions of someone at the museum. I thought that was interesting. What does that mean other than it gets hauled away?
Good question.
We just have the typical vendors, so they would just lean on us to tell the contractors where to dump the
Construction waste.
Okay.
We're just talking about construction waste, right? Not anything that's stored in there currently.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I didn't assume it was anything of ours. So, okay.
And this drawing also implies that there's going to be an auditorium with seats. I don't think that's really what we're expecting. We're expecting that to be a large open space where we can prep exhibits is what I remember.
That's 100% correct.
Okay. And what is the courtyard with the big X through it? I don't remember that space when I was walking through there.
Because I didn't show it to you, Tom.
Ah,
We sealed it off. It really looked terrible. So basically, it's hollow in the middle. It's a donut, except it's rectangular.
okay.
All
So
right.
that is actually an outdoor space.
It's weedy.
Yeah.
It's unkempt. But there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay. And they're not going to do anything with it.
And the maintenance reserve is not going to allow us to. This is going to be able to take the building back to.
Right. Now, is there a basement underneath that, or is that also, does that go down through the basement?
Well, there's that other document.
Yeah, but that's the thing we have to sync up is the basement layout versus this first floor layout. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that.
I'm pretty sure the courtyard does not reach the basement. The basement
that
is
it-
a structure, like lengthwise than the upper floor.
Okay,
Right.
thanks, Marshall.
So what is labeled as library in that bottom left or bottom right section, there's solid ground underneath. There's no room underneath that like the basement has. The basement only goes so far the length of the building. And
Yeah,
essentially
Tom, the basement goes up to the same distance as the brownish colored research labs, 605 square feet room.
Yep.
Okay, so that's about as far as the basement goes. So I shouldn't point. The basement goes up to about the level of the courtyard. So the basement is actually to the left on the diagram.
Okay, so all of half of the first floor on the right has no basement.
Correct.
Gotcha. So it's really just underneath the auditorium and to the left.
Yes, and then our intention is at an appropriate time, we're going to get some prison help. And what I want to do is remove everything in there that grows, remove the weeds and, any of that. And if we have to, we can put gravel or something over it. We don't have any intention right now to make that a useful space.
Okay.
Something maybe to think about in the future. As of now, not so much.
Okay. So maybe we can move to the basement where I know Marshall and the curatorial staff have been working on what goes where. Is there going to be a similar plan for this first floor where we identify like we did in this schematic or map here?
if you want to talk about the first floor really quick,
Yeah.
before we move to the basement,
Yep.
we have two rooms that are currently being stabilized. One is already stable with some of our taxidermy that's over at Douglas. That is room shoot, what room is that?
Pink one on-
606, the green one on the bottom left.
Sorry.
That is a current, I believe it's that room. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's 765, the purple room on the very bottom left of the schematic here. That really large purple room on the bottom left. Keep going
Not
down
the one
left.
that's subdivided. The one that's just a big open pink or purple space.
Oh, this one here, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
that
not-
one that room currently is a specimen storage room for some of our taxidermy. It's been stable since we've set that up. The taxidermy was originally towards the front of the building. We moved it into that room, created that room, and we've maintained that a stable environment for the taxidermy in there. Jill and I were just at Douglas earlier today, and room. I think it's either 660, which is the purple one in the middle, or the 605, which is the one just to the right of that. I can't remember which room it is offhand, but one of those two rooms is in process to becoming a second room for specimens that are some taxidermy that's just not in as great a condition as some of the newer stuff that we've been getting, or some skeletal material that we have duplicates of that either are not as great as other specimens we have, or if we have multiples of the same thing, to make sure we can keep up educational programming, research and collections, things like that. Um, so certain things are going to be going over there. This morning, Jill and I saw that the room had already been cleared, and the AC units are installed and running. And then she and I moved tables back in there so that way we can have some vertical space to actually move things over there. What we're currently working on is the USAC collection, which is the collection we got from Roanoke, the really good taxidermy, is going through the bubble in several cycles. The second cycle started this morning, so there'll be a third cycle just because there's so much stuff to work through. Because the bubble only holds so much space.
Right.
But we were immensely successful in getting the first bubble run with all of that taxidermy, mostly head mounts, into the dry collection space here just across the hall from where I am. And then we have more space to incorporate more of those specimens as they come through the cycle. And we've kind of shuffled around everything to make sure that we get as much as possible of that USAC collection into our main dry collection space right here, just because it's the most stable here at One Starling. And then, like I said, pulled a few things that'll be planned to go over there. We just haven't done that yet because we want to make sure the room is completely stable environmentally before we get anything over there just yet. And then if you want to, I can answer questions related to that before
Well,
we get to the basement.
I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear that you're getting down to the details here, and I think our purpose is really just to make sure that the communication is happening across you and Jonathan and the contractor, so that everything is. We're not putting something in a space that's not going to be fitted for it eventually. So, are there questions for Marshall or about the first floor at this point?
Or any additive maybe. Okay. Do you want to go down to the basement?
Yeah, we'll do that.
So the basement's mostly color coded by department as opposed to collection style or room style. But you can see that the large majority of the basement is paleo. A lot of Paleo's collections is already there. We've expanded Paleo's collection to include, I believe his name is Buck Ward's collection, which is a lot of box material. Which is so the main collection of paleontology stuff is in 35, that big blue box, and then 36 is the expanded area. We've added shelving in there. I believe the entire collection has already been moved. Adam and several guys did that like a month or two ago. It was a while back. And then there's room for more space as needed in that room 36 as needed, just to kind of allow for any new jackets, or if there's any especially geology or archaeology material that needs to go in there that has similar environmental conditions need and environmental needs. Those spaces are not as closed off as what is the rest of the building because was the old cafeteria and lunchroom sort of space. Um, Archaeology is in the brown in the middle there. Their space is currently not being used, at least yet. Archaeology has all of their collections here at Starling Avenue, but allowing them to have space because they are the ones that need them. They're the most in need of expansion space with their collections. So we kind of gave them, or they requested that they have a full room and then a couple of smaller spaces just kind of as needed. So that way they can have that. Um, the lab on the very far left in that kind of seafoam green 26
Yeah.
is a plan to be shared kind of wet lab space. There's plenty of sinks. There's a lot of material in there currently, but um, collection collection slash exhibit useful pieces of equipment that will be planned to move once we have that lab starting to set up. But that's planned to be a shared lab space. Wet bio is next to that in the green in 27, which can be, I think it's planned to be mostly wet bio storage, so jarred specimens, things like that. Um, and then the dry bio and wet bio, 30 and 31, are planned for those sort of collections, maintenance, but also collection storage, depending on what's needed. But those spaces are a little on the flex side of kind of seeing what we need as we move into that space. Right now, the small yellow 34 is labeled as dry bio. That's where the majority of our zoology collections are kind of stored at the moment. Everything's on shelves. We have excess jars over there and other materials, just kind of an as needed space. I'm hoping to eventually create a specific room that'll be planned for like jar storage because we only have so much jar storage that we actually need here at Starling Avenue. But then kind of an offsite as we need more jars, we can go grab and replenish. Thankfully, NCSM, North Carolina Museum of Science, um, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've been supplying us with some of their excess jars as they downsize or change out certain things, which is very generous and also helps with a lot of budgetary things related to collections. So, yeah.
Great. And is this a map, Marshall, that you're basically curating? Is this your?
Combined between Ben, myself, and Jonathan, just
Okay.
to kind of make sure that everybody was on board with everything. All the curators have kind of signed off on this planned schematic, and then but are open to edits as needed,
Yeah.
just based on as things come through the pipeline of what's available, what maybe we might have some more shared space sort of things. Just kind of, it's one of those like, well, what would you love to have? And certain people had certain requirements, some certain people didn't have as many requirements, sort of thing. So it's a little flexible, but we're hoping to keep these designations through to the end as we not vacate, rehouse this building. But yeah.
And is it would it make sense to do something similar with the first floor layout?
Potentially, a lot of the upstairs, a lot of the main floor designations might they say collections currently, but I think that was kind of umbrella terms because the fact that we wanted to make sure that we had enough space for the collections because that's our first priority. But a lot of the main floor, until further notice, is at least as far as am aware, general storage as needed for other aspects of the museum. And obviously collections is our first priority, but there's certain other aspects of the museum that are beneficial to what we do, such as even just like table and chair storage that are needed for event planning and things like that that we do that's outside of the typical museum style. That a lot of the main floor is planned for storage, but is open to collections as collections are needed because that's our top priority for that.
Will the materials in the basement continue to be secure once the demolition starts on the first floor, or are things going to have to be moved?
Things will likely have to be moved, Art. Well, for one, we are going to have to move things as required by the contractors as they get to work. And during the work, people like, Marshall, Ben, the curators, whoever else will all have to pitch in we'll have to go over there to do inspections. Because you do work on the first floor, you never know what's going to be happening on the second floor. And if you've got, dust settlement or something like that, you just want to keep an eye on those things. And if we have to then move materials, then we will have to do so. But this is going to end up being one of those, I don't even know what to call it, one of those games where you move everything to one spot, work on it, and move material back and so forth. And we'll have to come up with a plan to do that in conjunction with the actual contractor who will be over there, destroying walls and slinging paint and everything else they're doing over there.
We'll get a good taste for it when we start moving things around for the asbestos removal. They'll be taping off sections and throwing up plastic over doors and ventilation. And it'll be, stuff everything into this one room, carefully, quickly, and then as they move around in their planned, counterclockwise or clockwise fashion, we'll chase them around with moving items into those rooms that are deemed safe.
And I can't remember, Jonathan, I think you and I and David Firth had a sidebar conversation about the tile in the basement. If that has asbestos in it, it would probably make sense to remove it, and that would allow us the opportunity, if we would get additional funding, to put compactors in there. Do you remember that conversation?
Yes, and we were from that conversation, we're moving based on that. So we're moving on, instead of encapsulation, we're working on removal and remediation.
Great. How well does this, Art, the big question I think in front of your committee is some of these collections were really struggling to find space. I know archaeology was up there. How well does this relieve the pressure on the
Well,
space?
going by the map alone and my meager understanding of all the moving parts, it seems to me that Paleo is in the greatest need of storage space outside of Starling Avenue, and that this seems to provide some release for that. I think we've discussed before that the zoological collections most likely would not be moved to the Douglas Avenue site. But the anything that's basically rock would find a home there, at least temporarily.
Okay, I think we are pretty well through our planned agenda, unless there's anything folks want to bring up at this point. I guess what I would ask is, Jonathan, what is the timeline now moving forward with the contractor? I know you said we're kind of hung up with the asbestos removal.
So right now, and I just talked to him, so this isn't, these dates aren't coming from me. What he's saying is we'll go out to bid sometime in May for the work. So that, we get through schematics, preliminaries, working drawings, asbestos remediation, try to run all that in parallel to try to keep it moving. And then hopefully in May, we can go out for bid to a contractor. And then he has a tentative date of November for final completion, run through punch list, check items.
What year?
November 2026.
So would end of this year or early next year be a good time for us to come back together and meet? Does that make sense? Calendar year.
So looks like December is it November, submit preliminary design work, so we'll have that done. Looks like December will be another good, middle of December probably, substantial completion date for some submittals, element designs, and budget.
Okay. Well, why don't we target that, and you can let us know if the timeline slips and we need to move it to mid-January or something like that. But
No worries. Yeah, most of it's me trying to nickel and dime everybody and trying to stretch this money as far as I can stretch it. So
we're glad you're doing that for us.
Yes, yes.
Anything else for open discussion?
It's exciting to see all the progress.
Thanks
Yeah.
for saying that, Lisa, because it never moves fast enough for us.
Yeah. Well, think about where we were. I mean, we went over there and all of the dead stuff things, I forget what they're called. All of that wasn't in great shape. We didn't know about the asbestos. We didn't have a plan for the asbestos. I mean, it was just tremendous progress, and we all really appreciate the hard work.
DST, dead stuff things. I think we should use that from here on in. Just pretty much covers a big chunk of what we have and what we do.
There you go. You can tell I'm the business person on the board, right?
No, I like it.
All right, Joe. Well, that was a very efficient meeting. In half an hour, we covered a lot of ground, and appreciate your attending today. We are adjourned, and we will try to set a schedule for sometime mid-December based upon feedback from Jonathan, so you can look for that.
Tom, thanks for taking the lead on this. I appreciate it.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
And for those of you sticking around for strategic planning, we'll just convene at 4 o'clock. So if you want to leave your feed on or rejoin, that's entirely up to you.
Okay.
Is it the same? It's the same
The
thing?
same link, same link.
Okay. Yep. I'll probably just leave mine on.
See you all then.
All right.